One of the world's costliest watches is made of steel. This is not a saying from today. Rather, this was Patek's advertising line for Nautilus in 1976. In the times of everything made for purpose, including dive watches, pilot and chronographs, and the manufacturers competing for waterproofness, reliability and time accuracy, the idea of steel luxury sports watch was born. The idea was originally conceived by Audemars Piguet and became a reality in 1972 by the greatest watch designer Gerald Genta when he sketched the revolutionary Royal Oak with octagonal bezel and 8 screws with bold and angular design. It was the integrated bracelet design in steel watches that raised its standards even over the precious metal watches. Patek recognized the idea and approached Gerald Genta for another masterpiece. It took Genta 5 minutes to sketch the second integrated bracelet watch that would soon become an icon. Named as Nautilus, this watch saw the light in 1976 as an answer to the idea of luxury sports watch by the manufacturer that was known for precious metal dress watches. The inspiration for the design of Nautilus when Genta sketched it was the shape of ship porthole, and while the idea was again an octagonal bezel, this time Genta reshaped the bezel to a more subtle and less angular shape than he did for Royal Oak. The thoughtful design made the watch not so much octagonal looking, rather a more rounded in shape, yet still neither circular nor rectangular in looks. The bezel in the sketch was then attached to the case with the ears on the case sides at 3 and 9 o'clock position. As the inspiration was porthole, the ears were reminiscent of the hinges in the ship window. The original case design was monoblock profile, where bezel would screw into the case back using the ears. This would mean that the movement was inserted in the case always from the dial side, before the bezel would be inserted to close the case. But in the modern cases, this design has since been changed to a 3-piece case structure, where the watch comes with exhibition case back to showcase the movement in its full glory. Personally, for the pleasure of viewing the meshing of gears and winding of coils, I would prefer the open case back any day over the closed, even when at the cost of losing monoblock case profile for typical 3-piece construction. The modern Nautilus in return comes with the most iconic integrated bracelet watch design, where the whole watch from every angle looks like one piece, and all components including the case, bracelet and clasp integrating into each other. In a nutshell, the design is so extraordinary that the dial or the case is just one component of the watch, and as such, there is no boundary between where the case ends and the bracelet begins. The integrated bracelet idea, where every component is designed to complement the other, and the flow continues as if it was a single body watch. Patek have further manufactured the watch to utmost perfection. Nautilus comes with top surface of the bezel as fully brushed. Then there's a beautiful beveling on the bezel which is polished like mirror. The vertical sides of the bezel also comes with polished surface to enhance the looks and the experience. The lugs sport similar brushing as the top surface of the bezel, and the vertical lines show the best in the business brushing. There's a very fine chamfering done at the lugs, and the bevels don't taper down, rather they continue all the way to the bracelet. Speaking of the bracelet, this is where the concept of luxury sports watch steps in. The bracelet on Nautilus is one of the finest in the market that money can buy. Aside from the high-end machining and workmanship, the bracelet actually feels soft at the touch of the hands, and even on the wrist it feels silk smooth, and you almost forget that it's actually a steel bracelet. The bracelet offers a stunning intermix of brushed and polished surfaces, with the side links continuing the vertical brush lines and center links sporting highly polished surface. There's then further polished bevel on the side links of the bracelet to add character to the watch. The model reference for this watch is 5726, and it's not a standard 3-hander watch. Rather, it has a more complicated movement to offer annual calendar and moon phase. In the dial, the watch resultantly comes with 3 larger hands and 1 small hand for 24-hour indicator. There are then further 4 windows in the dial for the day, date and the month. And on top of everything, there's that moon phase that glamorizes the whole watch experience. The dial comes with horizontal embossing on it, and then there's a blue shade that gradually grades from blue to black. The blue shade itself is also very greyish, so expect no dramatic blue, rather a very timeless and subtle blue that will always maintain a character on its own and will most definitely never age. The dial is spectacularly sunburst, and this is something I had never ever read in any review or description, and only found out while getting up close with this watch and shooting these clips. And those radial lines are truly breathtakingly beautiful. No words required here to state how elegant they are. Behind the stunning blue dial beats the even more beautiful heart of the watch, the Patek Philippe Caliber 324, beating at 28,800 vibrations per hour to offer 45 hours of power reserve. The movement comprises of 347 hand-assembled parts and 34 jewels, supported by 10 bridges, and the display offers full view of movement in motion that you can look at all day long. The movement further features beautiful Geneva stripes, and my count revealed 12 stripes in total in the movement. The movement comes with beautiful 21 karat solid gold rotor, and the machining on the rotor is no different, and defines you why Patek watches are what they are. The rotor further has a beautifully engraved Patek logo, and the attention to detail here is absolutely mind-boggling. The way the engraving itself plays with the light is in itself a work of art. On the wrist, Nautilus wears like a joy. This particular reference 5726 is slightly bigger and hefty than standard 5711. Yet, there is no sense that the watch wears large even on smaller wrist. My wrist size is 6.5 inches and the watch is 40.5mm in size and works absolutely like a charm. It's worth noting here that the 40.5mm size of the watch includes the chamfered profile of the bezel, which in itself is about 2mm wide. This means that the watch face with the dial and the brushed bezel is only 36.5mm in size, and this makes it even more easier to wear even on smaller wrists. The watch with integrated bracelet flows on the wrist like a band, and it absolutely contours to the wrist in the best possible way a watch ever could. And it feels even more comfortable than many watches on rubber, thanks to the very fine machining and curving done by Patek. The watch comes with double deployment clasp and flip lock, and the design perfection is that the integrated bracelet design is still well maintained. There are no quick release buttons here, and this is where my only gripe comes from. In the absence of any push buttons, you'll have to pull the clasp with a bit of force. Not that it requires extra effort, it's just not as convenient as disengaging clasp with quick release buttons. Patek Philippe Nautilus requires no introduction and description. This is the watch that commands the longest wait lists and highest premiums, and there's a reason for why it is so special. Genta designed this watch in 5 minutes on piece of paper. But those 5 minutes represented his whole imagination and vision from his life. Patek mastered the imagination of Genta with their century-long history of watchmaking into something that couldn't have been perfected any better. In the times of steel sports watches, which were on the crash by quartz watches in late 60s, if it wasn't for Genta's creations and integrated bracelet watches like Royal Oak and Nautilus, we wouldn't even have known what a luxury steel sports watch would mean. And then in the absence of luxury steel sports watch, we would either be living in the times of precious metal watches or probably quartz or digital watches.